Dreamers and a realist, the Sooners win barely, eking out a victory over Houston, 16-12. We're gonna have a lot to talk about, and none of it's gonna be pretty. I'm Steve,
Lucas,
Christian, Connor,
Jay,
Mike.
and we got surrounding group that might chime in as well. Guys, this was bad. This was really bad. This was kind of come to reality bad. I don't know if this has more realism than in anything that we've seen in a long time. What are your immediate takeaways? And let's dive into it. Actually, before we do that, let's, on a happy note, thank our sponsor. We would like to thank our title sponsor, Little Debbie Snack Cakes. From oatmeal cream pies to zebra cakes, from cosmic brownies to honey buns, Little Deb has you covered. The weather's cooling down, and you know what that means. Fall cakes and pumpkin flavors. Get your pumpkin spice rolls, pumpkin delights now in stores. Whether you're celebrating another victory, even a small one, or finding comfort after a loss, Little Deb Snack Cakes has you covered. Thanks to our supporters at Little Deb. Little Debbie, sorry. All right. So as bad as that ad read by me was, thanks to Little Debbie, sorry for the butchering, it kind of was emblematic of things we saw tonight, which was just, I don't know.
you just weren't on the same page, just like Jackson Arnold and his receivers. It seems like he threw bad balls, but also the receivers did no favors by dropping it and maybe not even running the right routes. There were times when he was looking for an out and they went in. There were times when he throws a deep ball and Burks just doesn't even bother trying to get in front of the defender, and the defender intercepts it. Nobody was on the same page. The offensive line looked terrible again. There's just nothing good you can say about anything except the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember an offensive performance that poor since the infamous Texas game in 2022. And someone made a good point. At least we could run the ball in that game to an extent. So it was, like you said, it's bad on all accounts on the offensive side of the ball. Again, defense carries the team. I think for as much as what they were on the field, very solid performance. You had one big bust that led to the touchdown, but after that, it was pretty solid and held them when we had to hold them. Offensively, it's a big concern right now. I mean, you can say everything you want around needing to fix things quickly and you got to turn things around, but we saw, in my opinion, we saw regression from week 1 to week 2.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that's going into your third game against a Tulane team who is physical, who looks like they can put up points to an extent, and who can seemingly play some defense. It's very.
So Jay, you had made a point earlier about just how bad Houston was, and when we came out and faced them, when we were talking about their defensive front that gave up an unconscionable amount of yards to UNLV,
almost 200 rushing yards.
What did we get tonight? Does anybody know off the top of their head? Not a lot.
70 something?
Yeah,
75.
75. Pathetic.
And that includes quarterback run.
Talk about you had an order of where you thought things were amiss and all the things that were bad.
Yeah, I'll just glaze past the defense. They played well enough, won us the game. They're not going to be able to do that the whole season, obviously. So get on to the offense like we're all talking. It's so bad, it's almost hard to really tell what the problem is. And unfortunately, it's all of it. And I would start off with, I still think it's the O-line 1 is the problem. Seth Luttrell 2, wide receivers 3, and Donald Poole.
And is that wide receivers, you're saying with the guys that are on the field?
Lack of wide receivers, yes.
And so it's injuries, but it's not, you're not giving them a pass or excuse of injuries because it's the guys that we should be able to count on that aren't coming through as well.
Well, in real time, you're watching so much, once we go back and watch the game again and can really break it down, you'll get a closer look, but I don't feel like there was much receiver separation. And if there was, they might not have been one of the first couple of reads. So the whole thing was just jumbled. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's bad.
So
it's very troubling.
The offensive line's the easy thing to key in on, right? That's the thing that everybody was looking to. I mean, we were talking about it in in the off season going into the preseason that was the point of emphasis and concern. But moving away from it, it seems like we've got issues elsewhere and all over the place. Mike, you had some observations about Jackson Arnold.
So Jackson Arnold, I think he made the wrong read multiple times where they were single covered. We had two wide receivers, let's say on the right, both clearly in man-to-man single covered, and he had safety help on the left, and he would go to the safety help side and was thrown into double coverage or looking for people to get open, and they weren't getting open. He was taking sacks. But on another note, while we were talking, just looking at it, so we held the ball for all but 29 seconds of the last 7:57 of the game. And so the time of possession was pretty darn close, only because we held the ball at the end of the game and we were running clock.
Which was very fortunate based on the way that the events played out, that we were even in a position to do that.
Right.
I mean, we're fortunate we got him to jump on that 4th down.
Right. So we got the ball with
Yeah.
7:57 left. And then it ends up, that's the one where we punt and pin them down on the 5-yard line and then tackle for the safety. They punt to us. We get it back at 142. We hold it down and punt it at 35 seconds. But when, as a coaching staff, do you not adjust your play calling to account for you're not holding the ball very long and your defense needs to rest? I mean, there was
going
some
on
coaching
the entire game. So there's a lot of points of
Well, we
emphasis
thought that
to
would-
talk about.
That was a problem last year.
Right.
Right.
We were on it
So-
last year all
But,
over the place.
yeah, I guess what I'm saying too is you go back to Jackson Arnold. Why is the coaches can't figure out time of possession, but why can't they also, when he comes over the side, now they can use the iPads that Brent Venables thinks is a coaching advantage or a disadvantage to have people use iPads? Can't you show him, hey, when they show you this look, here's the first read, here's your second read. Is nobody helping him out?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys heard Brent Venables talking about the iPads, and he was saying how he
Yeah.
thinks for him, he wishes they weren't there because he thinks it's an advantage that he can look out and he can remember where the safeties were.
Oh, sure it is.
And
It's
then
an
coach
equalizer.
people off.
Yeah.
And now it's an equalizer because now they can look at the pictures. Well, are we not using that to show Jackson Arnold, hey, when they showed this front, this is what they've done the last 5 times, figure it out.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I like the talk about time of possession because that was critical. And it was obvious from out of the gate that Houston's desire was to shorten the game, possess the ball, and really force us into a situation where we were going to have very few possessions that had to be successful. We didn't adjust to that, and we'll get into later, I'm sure. It's so hard to stay on any course here because there's so many points of criticism, but the god awful misfiring on time of possession or running the clock at the end of the game, and just absolute coaching blunders, showing no ability to figure out when you need to run clock, how much to hike the ball, how much time on the clock to hike the ball with,
Yeah, we're trying to milk the lead.
what to
with
do
under 2 minutes to go, and we're snapping the ball with 11 seconds.
when
to
you
go.
should not hand it. Let's get to the end of the game in a minute, but let's stick with what was really the major continuity the entire game, where we just really couldn't put anything together on offense. Christian, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to completely beat a dead horse, but
No, dude,
say-
that horse needs to
yeah,
die.
the horses look dead out there tonight. So,
With the pony?
yeah.
They didn't get to make very many trips around the
Yeah.
field.
No, they didn't.
So I mean, offensive line horrible. And back to Jackson Arnold. One thing Connor and I noticed over and over, even on some of his completions, he's staring down his first read.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no progression. If his first read is not open, he panics. And O-line is not good, but in the first half, he did have some time. But once his first read is not open, he looks away and moves. And so, I mean, there just has to be, I think to Lucas's point, wide receivers are not getting open. There are standard route combos that have been used in football for years now. I'm not seeing it.
And lesser teams are using them.
Yeah, I mean, our guys, I mean, it looks like Luttrell is drawing up plays on a whiteboard, and there is no combo to break, to make a safety bite down or anything that is going to free up wide receiver. It looks like it's as basic as can be: slants, go routes, come back. I mean, it's as basic as it can be. Yeah, I mean, it's ugly. It's really ugly right now.
It seemed like the couple things that worked when we run like the wide receiver bubble screens, and they're getting 5 or 6 yards. I say you just take that all day if they're gonna keep giving it to you, because
Right.
that's
Well, that's the
literally
thing.
the only
That's
thing
what's
that's
so strange.
working.
It's
And
like
then,
it's not good enough.
and then you
Like,
just, yeah, I
it-
mean, you
there-
get away, and next thing you know, you're throwing a 35-yard deep ball that, man, he threw
Has no
some that
shot.
weren't even
Oh, man.
close. He
Out
threw
of
a couple
completely
out
out of bounds.
that-
Yep.
I mean, the one where he was in the fourth quarter and he was coming down the sideline, I
toward
remember
you,
it was.
yeah.
He threw it, I mean, to
Yeah.
the stands.
Had no
Well,
shot.
and
But
all
the
you
wide
gotta-
receiver
And he
wasn't,
wasn't throwing it away.
even if he threw that on the money, the wide receiver was 2
Oh,
inches
so
from
he's
going
cut,
out of
yeah.
bounds. He
Yeah.
wasn't gonna
And he's
complete that
covered.
one.
And cut.
There
And he did another one on
Yeah.
y'all's sideline in the third quarter that was the same way, and I was like, why did he throw that ball?
and he's missing the the open wide receiver
Yeah.
and choosing a guy. And I mean, I don't know between him and Brennan Thompson on one in particular, who's making the mistake. I don't think Brennan Thompson's very good. So I'm going to give a little bit of grace to Jackson Arnold to say Brennan Thompson doesn't know what he's running. But there was one that it sure seemed like a go route, and I don't know why you're not running a go route with him. And he threw it like it's a comeback over the shoulder, back shoulder route.
Yeah.
Yeah. Threw it on the
And
complete
he-
wrong side of the
He's
field.
Yeah.
not the guy you want to run.
No, it doesn't make sense.
I was
Yeah,
happy
he
to see
has
some
3
swing
steps on this
passes.
guy.
Yeah.
We talked about that last
Yeah.
time. When you see some running back swing passes, Barnes caught one early, got 8 yards on it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we went back to it one at a time the rest of the game for like 3 yards.
Well, I don't know if we had a first down that turned into another first down tonight. Like went first down to first down.
No, I
Like,
don't think
they-
we did.
Just
Maybe
sustained drive.
one drive that we had one drive where we went.
I mean, it was just
Maybe
80
it was-
yards.
Well, yeah, maybe there was a back-to-back in there. But to me, with the lack of continuity that you're talking about, I worry that that's a real indication of a shortcoming in coaching by Luttrell and company, because they're trying to outsmart themselves and they don't realize you can just go with what's working. There's 2 facets to it. Are you trying to figure out a way to make sure that you get a lot of scrimmage, like practicing, let's work on this, let's work on that, which is right away a mistake because you're not in a position, you don't have the luxury of doing that in this game. And then the other is, are you trying to think, well, I can't keep going back to that well because they're going to catch on. So I got to throw another wrinkle in and do something different. And that wrinkle doesn't have any coherence with what you've been doing and what's working. The other thing that I noticed, and I think some others did too, it is if Jackson Arnold is not reading the defense at all.
Yeah.
We're running when they're screaming at us to pass. The defense has got no safeties, or they obviously are in tight coverage and they're loading the box, and we're running right into that.
We're throwing right into it.
We're throwing right
And
into that.
Just in these 2 games, for the last 20 years, I haven't seen a defense line up with no safeties
Yeah.
against us.
It's like they know
But that's just a
something.
death.
It's like they know something.
Normally, you're just toast.
I mean, did they go back and look at
Even if they-
Luttrell's work at other places and say,
Yeah.
I literally, I don't think Texas played with no safeties when we were running with the tight end for them.
right,
But I mean, that's what's concerning for me is through these first 2 weeks is as much as we praised him and still give him a little bit of grace, like Jackson just doesn't look confident. Like he doesn't look like
No.
he
Mm-mm.
trusts himself.
he doesn't look confident the way he looked confident
Yeah.
last year.
And that's what, and it's that whole like, now the limelight's on me and the pressure's on, I feel like type scenario where last year it's like I can sling it and I know I'm not going to get, there's not going to be a repercussion of getting benched because I am second string. But
Yeah, maybe it's psychological.
that's a big concern for me.
Last week, the pass where he rolled to the right from about the 5 or 6 and threw the touchdown to Burks.
Mhm.
That ball was tipped by the linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah, against a better defense, you probably get that intercepted. But I do think it goes back. I don't know how smart the coaches are. It's just like when you had the high-powered offenses. Your defense should be overly aggressive because all you have to do is create a couple more possessions for your team, and then you're good.
Yeah.
And now we have a really good defense. Our offense should be a little bit more open because, hey, if we go 3 and out one time, our defense can make up for that. But if
Right.
we score a touchdown, then it's over for them.
Right.
But when Houston was clearly they were going to run the play clock down to double zeros every time, had to call timeout twice in the first half so they wouldn't get delay a game. On offense, we didn't say we can't let them set back and do this because we got to score some points. Instead, we just kept on doing what we're doing. Our first time out, though, we called it because we were in a illegal formation. Number 19 on the coach's side was off the line and we didn't have a tight end underneath him. And they had to call timeout. Like, how do you not have your guys lining up right in the second week of the season?
Right, so it's
Same,
same thing where Bauer Sharp doesn't show up on special teams
Yeah,
twice last
yeah,
week.
yeah. Let's
Right.
pick up on that theme and talk about what I think is, you talk about coaches and the intelligence and what do they really know? So a few points here. It's getting to be a really serious issue. Two things in particular. One, knowing when and who is supposed to be out in special teams formation.
And how many people
we
should be
line
out
up.
there?
We line up in a to receive a punt with 10 players
Well, we tried to
at
fool
the end
them.
of that game. Yeah, yeah,
The old
tricking them.
the old
Yeah,
trick.
you know what to do. The 11th player's not
We,
here.
we really tried to fool them because they got to delay a game and we said, we'll make them think it was a timeout. So we'll take our whole team out there and huddle up and then only send 10 players out to field the punt.
Right, which is inviting penalty, which is my other of the 2 points, which is the undisciplinedness. Last week we saw it with crap like throwing a guy's shoe, Billy Bowman spiking a ball. Today we saw it with a guy stepping over somebody else, a guy ripping his helmet off, Josh Bates. I mean, again, I don't want
Could
to
have
get,
cost the game.
it could have cost the
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
And I don't want to get into that last drive yet. I want to talk about that in a minute, but the discipline issue is really getting serious. You look at anything like just fielding a punt. We had 2 muff punts tonight. We got the virtue of a muff punt that probably wasn't,
Right.
that we got our first touchdown off of.
And about 3 others where Bowman
Overrun.
is overrunning it and he's having to dive
And
backwards
falls
to catch
backwards.
it. And then Bowen did the same thing.
And muffs it.
Literally, we had 6 punts today that could
None
have
of them
all
were
been
good.
fumbles that we didn't recover.
But
Yeah.
did you see on one of their last punts? It had to be in the third quarter. I take that back. It has to be in the third quarter. We're telling Bowman to scoot up. So they are waving him up and then they punt it and it goes basically almost a yard or 2 behind him. So he is stepping back. I don't understand why they're coaching him to have to run backwards. Just line up 5 yards back
Right.
and come forward. And if
Up on the ball.
and come up, and if you can't get to it, just let it hit.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it goes 10
It's not a
yards
live
back.
ball. Yeah.
You know who used to be the guy that told the punt returner where to be? Was Kel Gundy.
Good point.
Well,
I guess he was the guy on the team that knew the math and would walk down there and line up and tell the returner, this is your line. And I don't remember having these problems then.
No, no,
Is it the new special teams guy that's causing the problem? I don't know.
I don't know.
And again, we've talked about this plenty of times. You got your starting safety and your backup safety out there returning punts when there's got to be 15 other guys on that team that return punts their whole lives that are skill position players
And-
that aren't as valuable. You put
Right.
Petaway out there.
Yeah,
Put-
I did
right.
see
Whoever else out there.
81 get hit right in the face mask with the ball. It would have been a first down on
Yeah.
a, and he dropped it.
Yeah,
So
he
maybe
did.
there aren't that many guys who can catch it.
I mean,
You're
I
being-
find
you're
it
assuming
hard to
things.
believe.
I
There's
totally agree.
115 kids in the team.
Absolutely.
You can't tell me there's not
No,
10 others
obviously.
that can get out there.
And one of the
catch a punt.
things that we talked about it at least preseason, worried about the risk to these type of players. Well, tonight we saw what could have been maybe a late hit of a guy lands on Billy Bowman, but after he had muffed a punt. Regardless, that's how a guy gets hurt.
Yeah.
You're putting him in a vulnerable situation, and it doesn't make sense from that standpoint.
I want to talk about the hurry up.
All right, yeah, let's talk about the hurry
Well,
because that's
can we, before you move to that, let's stay on special teams. If we know we're kicking
Don't
the,
boss us on our own podcast.
if we know we're kicking a field goal, the one we missed, why on third down or on second down, don't we run the ball forward?
right.
We don't run it. We try to run a pass. Don't get it. Then clearly they called in and they told Jackson Arnold, run a quarterback draw and center the ball in the middle of the field for our kick. If they knew that that was in the cards, why on second wouldn't you have run it? So on third, you could have maybe run and picked it up. But now he was running like 4th and 11 trying to pick up. You knew we weren't going to get it.
Yeah.
You just conceded we were going to hit a 41-yard field goal like it was just easy money.
Brent said in the postgame that they purposely called that because they were planning on going for it on 4th down. Except he only picked up like 3 yards or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think
I
he
think
picked
it
up like
was 4th and
6.
8.
I think, yeah. I think
Was
he
it
might have got 6.
Yeah, 6.
I mean,
Run a
it
better
doesn't
play.
matter. He was still
Run
5
better
or 6
plays, run a
yards
better
short.
second down
Right.
play.
But second down's where you make that. where you make
Exactly.
your
That's
money.
where you make your decision about what you're going to do on 4th down. That seems like an after the fact of
Yeah.
shoehorning in what you think you're going to do.
Yeah.
There were several moments where they were doing things like that, where it just didn't seem like they had a real
There's
thought
no rhythm.
process.
There's no rhythm.
There's no thought process between where we are on the field and what we're going to do and what we're willing to do or what we need to do. So what was the other?
But and then we're gonna the hurry up is what,
Oh, right.
where you guys want to go. But then the other one, sort of talking about that when it's 4th and 1 and you're up by 2, that Houston jumps off sides shows they're almost as poorly coached. You
Right.
know we're not gonna go for fourth down and leave them the ball in field goal range.
Right.
On the 30.
But we were on the 30. They would have been in field goal range.
Yeah.
You knew we
It
weren't
was fourth
snapping
and
it.
one.
Right.
So it was 4th and 1,
Well,
but
and our running back moved.
right, but you're not gonna
Well, they did it earlier in the game when our whole defense is looking to the sideline
right.
and they snapped it.
It was
at the
smart.
gut.
I knew
Yeah,
they
it
were going to
was
do it.
brilliant.
It was brilliant. It was almost a play call. I think
It was a play call.
where they look
It was.
over there and and I saw him and I yelled at, you heard me
Everyone checked
yell it.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their
And
H-back-
everybody
their
looked.
H-backs looking to the
And sure
sideline
enough,
and
we
the
just
quarterback
go.
snaps it and goes.
It was
Right.
smart.
But I'm saying for us, when we line up on 4th and 1 and they're in field goal range, only up by 2,
There's no way
with
we're
our
going
defense,
for
there's
it.
no way we're going for it.
And that guy
The-
jumped 3 yards off.
Right, that their coach doesn't radio down to their linebacker and tell them, nobody's this stupid. OU is not going for it. Just stay still.
Yeah.
And they jump off sides. And even then, Jackson Arnold threw it to the wrong side. Brennan Thompson had single coverage. He threw it to the side that had the safety help
Goes into
and
double
got
coverage.
intercepted.
Goes into double coverage.
And got intercepted.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely
he just
pathetic.
right-handed and saw
Yeah.
when he stepped back, he just launched it. I mean, I think that's just what happened on that play.
So the hurry up. Talk
hurry
about
up.
that.
It's when your offense is not moving the ball at all. And you've proven you played an entire first half with what we have 180 yards or something like that at
If
half.
that, yeah.
Why are you going into the second half and thinking, oh, let's keep running hurry up because
Right.
it's done absolutely nothing to throw off the other defense.
And if anything, the
And you're trying
defense
to-
that's having so much success, the one thing that could be the Achilles heel is if they get tired.
Yeah, and it was 20-10 in time possession at
Yeah.
halftime. I mean, it was like 18 and
Yeah, no, it's
yeah, it was close
nearly double.
to 20 and 10. And you're out there running 3 plays in a minute and 17 seconds, and your defense is back on the field.
So
It's the same crap we
We
were
wiped
mad
that
about last year.
yeah. But last year the defense was
No,
okay.
yeah,
This year the defense is awesome. So giving them time to rest is still helpful because they've done such a good job of keeping Houston out of the end zone through that point.
right.
And
Yeah.
you're out there just running hurry up and it's 4th and 3. 4th and
Again,
4.
no rhyme or reason.
So historically, people have said you run the hurry up. So you can set up, the defense sets up, it allows the quarterback more time to read what the defense is doing. Is there a flip now with the communication to the linebacker
Yes.
where you line up in your formation, now the defense can signal in what they think you're running, and it's giving the defense an advantage on the offense
So you'd be
To
better
see your
off.
lineup.
to see your lineup.
So you'd
to
be
see your
better off with
formation.
the sugar huddle
Right.
that you wait for 15 seconds and then you go line up.
Yeah.
Right, because the defense is lining up and their coach is radioing down saying, okay, it's this formation. Here's what we think they're running. And their linebackers checking them into the right play because you're giving it up
Yeah.
when instead of the vice versa.
But you can still run a check with me offense. You can run the sugar huddle and then go out there and then at 15 seconds, both the headsets shut off.
Right.
Everybody looks to the sideline. The Kevin Wilson era, the Lincoln Riley era, we had to check with me offense. And those have been the most prolific offenses in
Well, you
college
can
football
do
history.
both. You can do both.
Yeah.
You can huddle up, get the call.
Yeah.
And not gonna get into the crowd noise, the band issue while we're on offense and making noise, but it's an issue.
Jumbotron sound is so loud.
He's shut up when we're on offense. Shut up. We are not SEC ready at any facet. The field looks like crap. I'm not gonna get into all that
You're
stuff.
playing
It's
Houston and
awful.
Jackson Arnold's having a
Yeah.
He's
having
having
to do
that,
the same
exactly.
thing
That's a
Said the
real
same
big
thing.
issue.
Yeah.
And that's the,
But I don't know when to
Key
cheer
advantage.
if they don't tell me.
if
when
they
to
don't
cheer.
yell at me when to cheer, I won't know how and when to cheer.
And when we get first downs, when they let us know that. as well,
Right, yeah,
it's-
then you say boomer and you talk
Very-
over when the offense is running. That's right. And the band plays the whole time, right? Yeah. It's very, very, very frustrating. It just shows we're not game ready. I mean, this is stuff that I guess they think that this is like the NFL and this is the time where you've got the preseason games and none of this really matters, but this stuff counts. And this is week 2. You can't look this sloppy in week 2 against a team this bad and expect to have any success throughout the rest of the year.
And Christian brought it up earlier about route design and having levels. And Lincoln Riley, I think, was really good about creating levels, having pretty much the same base. You know, the lineups were pretty much the same.
But you
The
can do a lot out
the
of it.
same motion. Kevin Wilson did the same stuff where he had the same motion but different routes. And I think that was an advantage that they have, that we're trying to be too creative pre-snap instead of creative after the snap and putting people in tough situations.
I think it's a really good point.
I mean, you talk about the one, that Lincoln Riley used to run all the time where, the quarterback waves his arm behind his back and the running back goes into motion to that side. And we run a slant route plus the running back going out
with options.
And if the linebacker takes the running back, he hits the slant. And if he stays back, he hits the running back.
It's
and that
not
was-
rocket science
Right.
to figure this out.
Yeah.
Why can't you run? I mean, we deserve an offensive coordinator who can do that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
there's no simple plays. There's no easy catches. Everything is contested. Everything is either forced in there
That's a great point.
or Arnold has to make a perfect throw.
Yeah.
I think the plays we succeeded on are though, like the slant to Brennan Thompson. I think he checks off one.
Right.
He knows the backer staying. I have Brennan Thompson on 1-on-1 slant, throws it the over the top ball to Bauer Sharp.
Yes. Yeah.
Was it Sharp or Robert?
Roberts. It was Roberts.
So same thing.
That we ran late in the.
He
we only ran on
checks,
the
yeah,
second
he's
last
wide
drive.
open. It's stuff like that where it's a simple route combo. You know who the open guy is going to be. I don't know if that's on Jackson that he's not able to see the full progression, and that's one of those things that as a fan you don't really know that
Right.
if he's missing those reads. But I mean, it doesn't look easy.
Mhm.
It should be, but
Right. We ran an inside handoff that if it was a read option, Jackson Arnold doesn't know how to run a read option because they had nobody on the backside. He would have run for 50 yards. Hopefully it was an inside handoff call and he had no read there. We also definitely ran an RPO though, where the middle linebacker crashed and Burks was wide open over the top for a slant. And unless they told him hand it off, he should have been passing that
Right.
ball because Burks they had no safety help again. He would have just went straight up the middle and scored.
Well, that gets to an issue you brought up, Jay. You said I'm done with the RPO.
If you don't have an experienced quarterback, if Arnold's not reading it right, which it looks like he's not, then we just need to call run plays and call pass plays.
Yeah.
Period.
Which that's
I think he's stuck in the middle of learning how to decide what he needs to do. And they need to be able to recognize that and just call plays.
let's work on it this coming off season. Let's just tell him what to do now
Mhm.
and utilize his talent. So that is interesting because if I'm going to take any type of an optimistic homer view on any of this, and we're running out of rope on all of these ideas, but you would say that they're scripting everything, they're telling him what to do, and they're working on it. And we backed our way into a game tonight where all of a sudden we're in a tight game that we didn't intend to, should not have been tight.
Yeah, now you got to break.
And they
script.
are telling him, do this, do that. We did see a couple of things that were, knowing that we needed to get a first down and throwing it to the tight end right there at the end. That was very important. And that was very creative. But that was about the only creative thing we saw. And when you're at half, you're up 14-6. It's too late to decide you're going to be doing, if you're doing this, I'm going to work to the left. I don't care if they're loading the left. I'm going to run. I don't care if they're loading the box. It's too late. You're in too tight of a game. You're going to have to go to what can work. And we didn't see them go to stuff that was easy that we know can work. So that's really troubling. And I worry that they're not just trying to work on things with the luxury of knowing we can just, if we want to dial it up, we can dial it up. I don't know if they can dial it up.
I mean, how many times do you watch other games where if a quarterback's struggling, they're like, okay, let's start getting them onto the outside, right? Let's get them boot over here.
Right.
And you got
Simplify
like
it.
you got like someone doing a drag and someone doing a corner and someone's doing a button.
Again, it's all
it's
these
open
it's,
field. It's like
and it's all these
easy
lesser teams who are doing it.
Yeah,
plays.
but
It's lesser teams with less talent who can seemingly figure this crap out, and we're not latching onto it. Like Luttrell seems like he just doesn't want to do any of it.
Mm-mm.
I don't know when the tip pass when Jackson Arnold rolled right and threw it and to Bauer Sharp, but it got tipped down.
right.
Again, 81's wide out there. It's single coverage. There's no safety help. That Jackson Arnold doesn't audible out of the play that's going to
Yeah,
clearly
he's not
be
checking out or
covered.
anything.
That was going to be wide open.
Yeah.
Like he should have seen they have no safety help. Everybody's in the box. There's no way I can loft it over 6 guys and get it to Bauer Sharp here. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that
It just doesn't look right.
that
But
doesn't
even
look
even
right.
that play design, there's a free edge guy, not like
Right.
past the tackle, right? So maybe it was just a good play by the defender, but the defender's normally in a really tough spot right there. Do I follow the quarterback and let the tight end go, or do I follow that tight end and then the quarterback will just cut underneath me for a run? So maybe he just played it just right, but everything is just difficult.
It shouldn't be difficult.
Even running for 3 yards, it's like a really hard 3 yards.
Well, Lucas, what did Gavin Sawchek go for today?
Four rushes for 4 yards.
4 rushes
And
for
I'll
4
tell
yards.
you
from a
another
running
big
back one.
factor is in the past we've had great wide receiver blocking, and it's almost non-existent in this offense.
Right.
And I think it's a lot to do with the players just not being good enough or trying hard enough to do it. But some of the play design, like when you're going to do the inside zone handoff and you've got a receiver coming across in motion, which is bringing the defender towards the line of scrimmage, and then you're snapping it. So you have an extra defender in the box that wasn't there before
Right.
because you had 3 wide. Now that wide receiver is not blocking that guy.
Right.
So they just have an extra defender to come
Mhm.
in there because the wide receiver is going to continue his motion out.
As if
And a
the
lot
guy's
of
just
times
gonna
they
follow
see
him.
the handoff
Right. And they
and that
know.
corner's coming in
Yeah.
from the edge.
Yep.
So then you don't have anywhere for the running back to go because the offensive line's not making the right blocks. And then they're not getting the corner because the wide receivers aren't blocking. So it's just a combination of none of it is working like it should. So you need to go to some bread and butter
Yes.
wide receiver screens. The tight end stuff worked tonight.
Just sit down.
Roberts had
routes.
3 catches.
Like, give me
Right.
a sit down
There's
route
nothing
at
wrong
4
with it.
yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the lack of discipline and doing the full job at the wide receiver position, I guess one point of optimism or cop out or whatever would be these are not your top receivers. We're lacking our top receivers, and so maybe these guys, for the most part, with Burks is the exception, they're just not trained and they're not as good. There's a reason they're not the number 1 receivers. They're not in a position to do all of those things you want them to do. And maybe when we get Nick Anderson back, we get Anthony back, then we get into a position where we have receivers that are making those plays. But that's just kind of pathetic.
Well,
If they don't know how to just at least put the effort
if you're
in
paper
to
thin
getting
at that
there.
level, like
Come on.
if you
As
if you're like sitting there like crap, we need Anthony and Anderson back because they're the only ones who know how to do their job.
And Farouk's gone too.
And Fruit's
I
gone.
mean,
Like
we talked
it's
about that being outside of like linebacker, that being the deepest
deepest
position in the
position.
field was wide receiver.
But it's deep in raw
And now
talent
it's
and
not.
not deep in true talent or on the
No,
field
no,
effectiveness.
no.
That's
It
3
is deep.
starters.
It is deep. Before you lose Gibson, with Nick Anderson not playing and then Farouk out. So when we
And
talked
Anthony
about
not
that,
playing, that's true.
Yeah, it is deep.
Well, we're not
Well,
saying it's still deep.
was-
We're saying it
yeah.
was deep, and so you should be able to still be effective,
A
but it's
couple,
apparently they're not.
But we're down 4.
All right.
There's not a
no,
lot
I
of teams
agree.
that can be down 4.
Well, I love your homer take. I agree.
No,
How about a
seriously.
double tight end
You're
set.
down 4 out of your
One
5
guy's
stars.
blocking and one
Yeah,
guy goes out for passes.
Honestly,
For sure.
no,
You don't know which
no
one it
can
is.
honestly withstand that.
But even with
to a
those-
high level.
even
But
if
they're
those
not
guys
doing the
in,
basic job.
even if those guys are in there, like I don't know if we see much of a difference with what we just
Well, they
talked
sure
about
as hell
with Jackson.
Oh, I won't go that far. And
I don't
I'm
think you
super
see. I don't
pessimistic.
think you see a drastic difference.
If you have a healthy Anthony, a Nick Anderson, a Farouk, and a Burks,
we still have guys out there who can get behind the defense that
I
are
don't-
not those guys.
I don't think our guys can get open for shit.
I'm not even talking about getting behind the defense. I just want them to run a nice in route.
I don't think they're.
and-
I don't think
and
they
get 2
can.
steps on a guy to make the pass.
The
easy.
route tree right now is literally just straight lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that also could be a factor of not just the talent, but the experience. So a lot of these guys didn't get the reps, and so they aren't knowing and seeing and doing the things they're supposed to do to make the right cut, to make the right read themselves. They may be a little lost. And so we may be a lot thinner at receiver than we realized and about to get stronger with Nick Anderson's apparent supposed return and whoever else is in Anthony's return.
Was Anthony even out there tonight?
No, I don't think
he
it's
don't
all.
lose
I
play
didn't
at all.
see him out there. It's somewhat same song, second verse though. Last year we go in and we think, well, the one offensive
Running back.
position we don't have to worry about is running back.
No, it's
And running back was an issue. And
Yeah.
this year we're going in thinking, oh, it's wide receiver. I mean, I don't know. And going back to the blocking, a motion that we ran a lot with Drake Stoops was he came in from the slot, would run all the way to the quarterback, and then go back out the
Back
same
out,
way.
yeah.
Oh, sometimes we would throw it to him, but sometimes we would run it right behind him, and we're allowing him to get 10 yards of run before he hits the linebacker. And so you made up for some size by just motioning them into the block.
Yeah.
We don't do any of that with our wide receivers of putting them in a position where they can make a block.
Yeah, even the motions that we're running don't make a whole lot of sense.
Well,
Right.
yeah, I mean, to go back to the run game and some of this wide receiver blocking issues, you kind of talked to it. We have 2 tight ends that are supposedly good enough to start. I mean, I know we do not do anything besides zone run, but at some point, do we not get different looks where we're looking at getting Barnes downhill, maybe going pistol, maybe going under center? I know that's not typically
Pistol,
our
what's
bread and
that?
butter. Yeah. But doing something where Barnes is obviously and Salchuk as well, just struggling to find holes. I know the line is not good, but go with a power set. We don't do it. Instead, we run motions, we run all this fancy stuff, and we don't just run power
And
football.
we don't have a fullback.
If
Well,
you're
but
better
You
than
need to
Houston,
convert one of those
yeah.
tight ends.
I
that's
feel
not
like
going out
on
for
any
passes.
given
Or a
play,
linebacker that wears number 7.
Yeah.
on any
said
given
it.
play though, I feel like one of the 5 offensive linemen
blows it.
are blowing.
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So-
Like there's maybe a handful of plays where all 5 seem to be on the same page and do what they're supposed to do. But there was
so bad.
yeah, but there was a
so
run
bad.
tonight from Barnes. There was actually a very nice hole wide open,
And he
and
just
Barnes had full
charged.
speed. And this backside defensive end just caught him for no gain. Just
Yeah.
blew through the line somewhere.
So Barnes had a good run against Temple where he made the nose tackle miss in the backfield, then he took it around outside.
To the left, yeah.
But if you watch that play, the center, he kind of chips the nose tackle, and then he's going to double team on the side, the run side, and the guard's supposed to shift down and catch him. And the guard was late getting the shift in. And to be a homer, you might be thinking, you know, our coaches are seeing stuff like that, and they're saying, "Hey, we just got to run it like a scrimmage
Mhm.
because I got to teach these guys how to actually work as a unit because they don't know when to pass the block off."
So I want to talk about defense and give them some praise. I definitely want to come back to the end of the game and both praise for the defense and some extreme criticism for our offense and our coaching staff. But before we do that, we have to thank our longtime sponsor, Tobacco Exchange. So 3 great locations throughout the metro area: Moore, Oklahoma City, and Edmond. Great selection, great staff. They always help us out. What are we smoking tonight, Lucas?
Tonight we've got some Oliva Master Blends 3. It's been probably 3 or 4 years since I've had one, and I'm loving it right now. It's
Good smoke.
It's good, great.
It's a great smoke, and they've got a special going on
We've got a
right
special on Olivas right now. If you buy a box, they're going to give you a leather cigar case and an 8-count sampler pack at the Moore location.
now. Yeah, it's a great deal.
I was in there today. Knowledgeable staff as always.
Yeah.
They've got some good premium smokes in there right now too. So stop in and get some.
Great prices. Yeah, that's a great package they've got going on right now. Definitely something to take advantage of. Well, one thing that we took advantage of, and I was calling for it very, very strongly at the end of the game when we were in a tight position because it's the last 2 minutes of the game. We know that if they score, we're going to need the ball back with some time. What we don't want them to do is march down the field slowly, methodically, and run clock to be kicking a last-second field goal. And I was screaming, which I've always screamed, you've got to be aggressive. And sure enough, we were aggressive,
Can
which
they hear
was
you from
great
up
to
there?
see.
I got your close to
They
press box.
could, yeah. I was both the press box and down below
Oh, no,
because
they
I
can't hear you
screamed
below.
and
They can
Brent
hear you
turned
press
around and
box,
he said,
though.
"Thank you." Yes,
No
They
chance.
can definitely hear him because nobody on our side was cheering at all.
yeah.
And half of
There
them
wasn't
were,
anything to cheer
half
for.
of them were gone, like with the
We'll
third
get
and
to
third
that. We'll
quarter.
get to
There was
that.
nothing to cheer for.
Well, cheer or make noise.
We will get to that for sure. But I was very pleased to see that we took a very aggressive stance, that we went out and knew it's make or break, that if we can get a big stop, game over, or should be game over. If not, let them score so we have a chance on offense. And so we did. Sure enough, we got a sack. It was a sack, right?
No,
And
it was
then,
a
No, it was a
handoff that
handoff.
we tackled the running back right after the exchange.
okay, and then right after that, we
No,
got a
that was
safety.
the safety.
Yeah,
That was the
before that
first
was a
play.
sack.
No, first play was. the
Oh, was
safety.
it was
yeah.
it a
It was an in.
Oh, they did. They had a holding on the kick return. Or what? Did
No, we
punt to
stopped
them?
the ball.
No,
The punt,
yeah.
the punt went down there.
Rolled
It
down to-
rolled
rolled
because
down
I
to
was
the
saying,
football.
Oh,
don't
that's right.
touch
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Don't touch
That's
it. We
right.
want
Time
as
is
much
fine.
time to run off the clock. They finally filled it at about the 5. They
Right.
snapped it to the quarterback.
Oh,
He
it
did
was just,
inside
it was the
handoff.
first play, was it?
First
the second?
play,
First
Yeah,
play,
right.
yeah.
I was thinking there was another. Regardless, we're very aggressive, which is what we needed to do when we got the safety out of it, and so that was great. What was not great is what transpired after that. So we kicked the ball. They kicked the ball to us, which they could have kicked an onside kick, right?
Correct.
And they didn't. They kicked it deep to us, which was strange, and that kind of forfeited it. It should have been a forfeit. We did a great job of picking up the first down.
I think they had no fear of us getting a first down.
That's right.
So they wanted to be as close.
Well, we did get the first down because we got creative, and we on second down we threw the ball over the top to the tight end, and he rumbles.
Which
And
wasn't a very good pass, by the
it
way.
was not a great
It was a
pass.
great
It's a
catch.
bad
Great
pass.
But again,
catch.
to me, that's an indictment on the offense.
Yeah,
That Houston made
Like,
the
we don't need
decision.
the ball right now. We're gonna get it back because
Right.
they're going
oh,
nowhere.
absolutely, absolutely.
We have 3 timeouts.
But
They're
we
going
did get
nowhere.
the first down we needed, and he did a great job of covering the ball up with 2 hands, knowing he's going to get tackled. He does, and yet then somehow we have no clue about the rules of the game and the timeouts that are remaining for Houston and what we're able to do. So instead of just downing the ball and taking a knee, we risk a handoff twice in a row, running basically the same amount of clock that you take with a knee. They have to take their timeouts in both cases, but we've risked 2 handoffs in doing so. And then we decide we're going to take a knee. And what we do is we wait for the longest time to actually, Jackson Arnold actually go down and take a knee. And no surprise at all that their guy comes over the top and hits him pretty hard, which it's a live play. He absolutely should hit him pretty hard. Yeah, I see it. And we're watching the Oregon game, and they're
He
messing up.
dropped it.
I'm
He
definitely
dropped
paying attention to that. And so I know it's frustrating to see your quarterback get hit like that, but Josh Bates loses his brain and pulls his helmet off, which
Yeah.
so coaching mistake to not know one, take the knee. You're going to be in the same position where you're going to be punting with 4 seconds left. You don't even have to punt the ball in that case. You can just run backwards or
Right.
sideways.
Right.
But instead, we're in a position, not only do we have to punt the ball, but we have a dead ball foul. And so it stops the clock. So
Yep,
we have to punt
35
the ball to
seconds
them
left.
at 35 seconds. And they get the ball back and obviously had a couple of shots downfield to get into range to score.
Yeah.
I'll even go into that. So when we do end up putting it back to them because we're idiots and get the penalty, they had trips to the west side closest to us,
Uh-huh.
and we are in man coverage.
Yeah.
There's 30 seconds left in the game,
Right.
and there is no safety help over the top because the safety is covering the slot receiver.
So I'm anything but a realist. But going to say, Steve, you said you were happy that we are aggressive and got the safety. I don't know if it's aggressiveness or just we're just that stupid because when they get the ball back with 29 seconds left, there is no reason we need to blitz them.
Right.
We can set back, let them get a
Yeah.
10-yard pass. We're up by 4. They
Yeah,
have to score a touchdown.
They could have went.
They can't
85
even get
they
in
could have
field goal
went
range.
85
Yeah.
yards, and
But we are blitzing on that last drive.
And you were
Which puts you out of
Everyone-
position
you
if
play
they start doing the
it's
hook
like
and
the
ladder.
only time you can actually play prevent defense. Like
Yes.
people play prevent defense when they shouldn't
With
play
4
prevent
minutes to
defense.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, like the other team, they're up by 2 and they're in a prevent defense. Like, no, you idiots are going to get in field goal range. This one, they literally had to go the length of the field to win the game.
With no timeouts.
Yes,
How about
and we
the clock-
still have 3 high safeties.
How about the clock management before that, when we had the ball and we're snapping it too early and they get an extra timeout with a 2-minute warning?
Right.
Because if we would have waited 2
Yeah.
more seconds.
Because we did it on 11
to
seconds
snap-
before.
Yeah, if we didn't wait 2 more seconds to snap the ball before that, then the play clock would have gone, or the game clock would have gone down to 2 in timeout, and we would have not had to run a play. Instead, we run it at like 2:02 or something stupid. And then did you notice for some reason the clock stayed at 2 minutes? It didn't continue to like, it should have been like 1:57.
Oh, really?
1:56.
Oh, it should have run down. So
And it-
somebody
and
didn't
it
know what
stopped
they
at
were
2
doing.
o'clock. It
Yeah.
stopped at 2 minutes.
Yeah. Not knowing what to do. Not SEC ready yet
Not
again.
SEC ready.
The
That's
same
what was
way,
pathetic.
once the third quarter ends, the lights go off like they're on a timer.
It was a Big 12 rep crew, which
Yeah.
we knew that was
But
coming.
your ref did not run the clock. Your home stadium runs
Yeah.
the clock.
Yeah.
No, it it just really, really bad in
Poor
so many
performance all
facets
around.
there. The not understanding what you want to do in terms of running the clock, not running the clock was obviously an issue throughout the entire game because you're putting your defense in a difficult position. You're burning up your time. You're running very quickly and not using clock to give them a chance to rest. And then at the end of the game, you're not using clock to milk the fact that you have a lead and you want to minimize their opportunities if they do indeed and did get the ball back.
I think I always say I can't let 18 to 22-year-olds dictate my happiness. I don't know if I can let these coaches dictate my happiness either, but
Where they are multi-millionaire
But-
coaches
but I don't
who are-
understand.
who get paid this amount of money to do this job. They should be better than this. They're not dictating my happiness. They're actually dictating my frustration
Depression.
and depression.
But when they talk about, oh, we script this many plays to start the game because we're going to line up in this formation and we want to see what they're doing. I don't know if they fully comprehend. You don't get that many possessions during a game to begin with. So if you're 3rd and 1 and you're running the same play you'd be running if it was 3rd and 10, then you have a problem with what you're doing in your game management. But then late in the game, I think it's to hide somewhat incompetence because late in the game, when it's middle of the 3rd quarter, your offensive coordinator should be thinking about how the game's playing out and what plays you might need to run
Mhm.
or where you need to have the ball to win the game.
Right.
And you're not thinking about that when you are up by 8 points and you're not thinking about, well, we need to extend this lead because they're one fluky play, one fall down receiver, one block punt from tying this game. You're not doing your
Actually
job.
taking the lead in that case.
Right. But I'm saying when they were down by
Oh, right.
8
Right.
points.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like when TCU scored and Stephen Parker knocked that ball and everybody
Right.
cheered. Oh, we stopped their 2-point conversion that would have tied. Like, no, like we should never have been in that situation.
Right. You can't be too happy about that at all.
That Woody Washington doesn't get the interception, which good call or bad call, that you're one call away then to them scoring on that drive and
Right.
having a 2-point
They scored
conversion.
the
at
next
time.
play.
Right.
Yeah.
And you should never be in that criticality of one mistake is going to cost you the game.
We glossed over a huge mistake by the ref in the 1st quarter. Our punt.
Oh, yeah. The
the
lucky
punt return didn't touch it.
thank you for bringing that up.
It
There's
bounced.
a bigger
The
point.
camera angle they had, you could clearly see he didn't touch it. I don't know how that didn't get overturned, but that gives us the ball right down there and we score. on
Well,
the
I
next play,
think
the
it
next
was
play.
there was not conclusive evidence to overturn it. Had there been better camera angles,
Yeah,
I
they had
think
to roll
would've.
with what they called on the field.
I mean, they had a camera angle that was like 10 feet away. It looked like.
But it wasn't clear that it didn't touch his finger.
The ball didn't look like it changed its rotation.
Yeah.
And I think they were going to go to that, but I also don't know how they gave us the safety because it clearly looks like the ball is outside the end zone. And any part has to be outside the end zone. It's not the whole ball has to be outside the end zone, I don't think.
I don't know. If it's any part of the ball that touches the end zone, it's in.
No,
it's a
I think
touchdown.
just this much of the ball has to be out
Of the
Right.
end zone.
of the end zone.
And
To
so
not be a
I
safety.
don't know how that wasn't a safety because it clearly looked like we hit him. Only thing was the ball's in his right hand and he
Right.
turns his back right before the hit happens. But we were fortunate on two reviews that didn't go against us that could have easily gone against
Well-
us.
And that's 9 points and we win by 4.
Right.
Yeah, and it covered
Yeah,
up
but
an offense that was struggling early that we might have been down in that game.
but the pass interference call was
No,
complete
it was
BS
atrocious.
too.
They were both pushing each other.
Oh, he looked
and-
back for 3.
And he had to,
3
he caught it
seconds.
one arm because the receiver had his right arm.
Yeah,
he
he was
was
looking.
tugging it,
He was
and
looking.
that's how he pulled it down
and
with one
found the
arm
ball.
because he couldn't use both.
Right. There's mutual combat going on,
Yeah.
and he's the only one actually playing for the ball, the OU player.
But Brennan Thompson, on his comeback that he thought was a go route that was underthrown, the same thing happens though. The defensive back goes right through him as he's slowing down
Right.
trying to come back.
And they didn't
And
call
they didn't
anything.
call pass interference on that.
You're right.
I mean, there's
Maybe he didn't fight enough to get back, or he slipped on our crappy field. I don't know what it was, but any
Is that the one where he
interesting.
threw it over the defender.
No, he threw it.
There was
No.
one where there was a pass that was on the west sideline,
This is the
and,
east
No, this
sideline.
and he was
East.
running this way, and there was a defender short and a defender behind, and he shouldn't have thrown the pass because he barely got it over the front defender,
Mhm.
and then it hit our guy, or the defender hit our receiver
Right.
before the ball got there,
Yeah.
and they didn't call that.
So that's a
jumped
different
over his
one.
back.
That's where he goes over Burks's back,
Yeah,
which
okay,
they called the
Exact
possession
same.
before on us
Yeah.
when Bowman went over the back. They called pass interference
Yeah,
because they didn't do that. Was no
exact same
the
play.
exact same thing, but we were going to the south. We're on the right hash.
Yeah.
Arnold throws it left where he thinks Thompson's going to run a comeback, and Thompson was running to go and realized it about as the ball's in the air and tries to
Sort of
comes
slipping,
back,
yeah.
and the defender runs him over. And they might say he slipped, but there was a bunch of those calls
Bad
where
call.
it was we got called pass interference for the exact same thing on the other side.
Right. And so bad calls for sure. Big 12 officiating. Hopefully that's the last of that. One of the things that I thought of that I think I mentioned in the previous pod about the other game, and it came into fruition to a degree here, that we got bailed out by a turnover, seemingly got bailed out with a lot of turnovers in the first game, even though I do think we forced 5 of those 6. But we didn't get the turnovers this game, and we did not look good. Our offense, as bad as it looked, is maybe because we just got more at bats. Where in the other game we were getting these gift opportunities that we didn't get in this game, and we don't get those gifts, that's trouble.
Yeah.
So we can't depend
Well,
on turnovers.
as bad as this Houston offensive line was supposed to be, because you had local radio and podcasters and stuff talking about maybe setting like single game sack records tonight and everything. I don't know if Houston just had some magic potion and their offensive line became great all of a sudden, but
Big improvements from week 1 to
our
week 2.
D line tonight was a disappointment. I think they were
Yeah.
very solid in the run, but as far as pressure and getting to the quarterback, it's still
I will say
Grayson
he's
Holmes.
getting the ball
Grayson
out really
Holmes is the
fast,
only
though.
one.
he did get the ball out really fast. He rolled out a number of times, so they may have adjusted the way they needed to adjust.
That can be true, but there still weren't people getting through.
Dominic Williams got his first sack today.
That first drive,
Yeah.
but the first drive, they pushed our defensive line around.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
talking about pushing people around, Danny Stutzman has the running back wrapped up
Yeah.
for a
Lets him
5-yard
go.
loss, and the guy just runs out of the tackle.
Yeah, he had a couple missed tackles today.
Right.
Yeah, I think what he was doing there is he's just not thinking, I just need to wrap up and make this guy carry me.
Right, just
Because
ball
he's
to
not
the
going to carry me. I don't need to run with him.
So
He's
so-
trying to run with him and he loses his grip.
So this is another coaches. I don't think coaches really understand it. That turnovers are most likely just random.
Right.
They're not. You don't create turnovers. You don't hold people up and rip the ball out.
That's not what Steve said last week.
But there is.
Well, that was the rarity.
I'm on your side. Last week we
Last week we ripped some out.
Right, but I'm saying the more you try to rip them out, the more you give up big plays. How many times do you see people try to stand somebody up and wait for somebody to rip it out, and the guy breaks free and goes for 10 more
You
yards?
got to have solid tackling.
You got to have solid time. First thing is you have to drop somebody to the ground. When Danny Stetson wraps up the running back, just fall to the ground and take him down with you. Don't try to stand him up and drive him back for another 6 yards. When he gets forward progress, you're not going to rip the ball out. He's not going to fumble.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's very frustrating.
Well, I have another point on the coaching on the defensive side, which I guess also on offensive. On the defensive side of the ball for coaching, I don't get the substitutions we're making and the personnel packages we're putting out there. Why is Danny not out there 87% of the time? I mean, he was out there 65 maybe. I mean, he's supposed to be your star guy on defense, and you kept running different linebacker packages out there. Safeties were inconsistent the entire time. I mean, switching Woody at corner, I don't get it. I mean, can we not pick 11 guys to play on defense that we're sure can go play?
Mhm.
Unless as a homer, you're saying, hey, we're running it like scrimmages and we're seeing who the people can play the technique we want them to play.
Not in a 2-point game, you're not.
Yeah, I think I would complain about it more if the defense looked bad, but everyone played well, so I'm happy with it. But at the same time, it's just
Worrisome.
it's a little scary when you don't have 11 firm guys that you're confident in.
But how many times in seasons before where the offense is subbed and we haven't subbed on defense?
Yeah.
But tonight, every time the offense subbed, we subbed
We
in a new
subbed,
defensive line. it was like it was scripted. We're gonna take the time to sub in our defensive line.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was too contrived with the substitutions. I don't know. Yeah,
It's
I
weird.
question a
Weird
lot
right
of
now.
that. I question on some of the positioning and coaching. I don't know what to do. And like we commented, Cannock gets in there, and the very first play he takes the wrong.
Uh-huh.
He
was
leaves
so
his
He
gap
bad.
overruns
open.
the gap, and
Overruns
he's
the gap.
standing behind a cluster
Yeah.
of offensive defensive linemen when there's a 7-foot gap right here.
Yeah. I mean, but what's
Story
the
of his
call there?
life.
Like, why did he go over? I mean, Stutzman was already filling that gap.
Yeah.
Like, was he just gonna go pat him on the back and say, good job?
I don't think Cannock knows what he's doing, honestly. I think he's just kind of a I don't
Is
know,
he
bit
is
of
he a
head
guy
case.
that is just fast and athletic, and he's used that forever, and it's
Right.
catching up to him?
Yeah.
Well, he's never played line. I mean, he's been a linebacker the last couple of years now, but he wasn't a linebacker out of high school.
Right.
So it's normal for him to take longer to learn the position. But
Been a long
sometimes
time.
it's also instinctual,
I
right?
mean,
You
you've been in the
just-
system for 2 years now.
Yeah,
But
so-
at some point you
But to
got to
that
figure it
point,
out.
we've talked about, me and Connor have talked about, if Cannock's main ability is his athleticism,
Fullback.
why is he, well, not yet, fullback, but there are times where
We don't have fullback.
he's dropping into coverage, he's like playing the main coverage guy and Danny's blitzing. Like just if Cannock's only athletic, just bring
Yeah.
him on blitzes. Just use him how
Use him as the
Eric Stryker.
right.
Yeah.
But instead
Yeah.
they're giving him too much responsibility.
Oh,
If you want to let him run free, but don't give him a main key read.
That when Venables left the first time, how many OU fans were saying, "Oh, this is good because we were too complicated. We need to simplify things." And now it's sort of the same thing. You're saying, "Oh, it's too complicated for this player or that player." Like maybe his system is overly complex when other teams seem to figure out defense
Mhm.
at a level that's competitive that we can't figure out.
So
so
we can't blame the defense for anything that happened today.
Yeah.
I mean, they were kind of bend don't break on that first drive and gave up a field goal. But
and after that they tightened up real nicely.
yeah, other than
Well-
the one where they had the interception called back, and then I think our whole team just was mad and went, kind of down, and then the next play. somebody
Okay,
wasn't
but to
touched.
be a
That was one
realist,
bust.
over here, what was the UNLV Houston score? 28-7, 28-7. We held them to 5, UNLV, or do they have a defense that's better than our defense? I mean, maybe they just a really crappy offense.
No.
Temple might be really crappy.
And I think Houston only got their 7 points maybe on the last drive of the fourth quarter with their backup quarterback that throws it came in.
Right. I mean,
So they were held scoreless.
before we say our defense is great, we might want to play a real offense.
That's a good point. I mean, that's fair. Everything's up for criticism and doubt at this point. One of the things that's interesting to me and scary is that this pod and this experience tonight watching the team harkens back to our very first season on the
2021,
pod, 21, where we were winning games and we were exceptionally disappointed and worried, and that worry built and got worse. It's now coming in we had our moments in that season. I guess the second game was Western Carolina.
Was Western Carolina or when you played that really solid Tulane team? That
Well,
was
we
not the
played
first
that
game.
really good Tulane
That was the
team.
first game.
And then we played Western Carolina,
won
but
like
then after that it
77-0.
started built like this
Yeah.
is we're getting a wake up call here in game 2. And it's a scary wake
I
up call.
promise you, Tennessee is going to be way better than Houston.
You think so? You think
'Cause
so?
I've seen them play 2 games so far.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'll say it right now. I don't think we're beating Tulane.
We play like we did today. I
If
don't
we
think
play
will.
like we did today, we're not going to beat
If we
Tulane.
play like we did in the first week, we're not beating Tulane.
Yeah, that's probably true. But we should expect, with absolutely all realism or all legitimacy, to expect that we're going to be a lot better by week 3 than we are in week 1 and then
Not
even
after
week
tonight.
I
2.
mean, we regressed from week 1 to 2.
I'm
offensively,
no,
for sure.
no. Like,
Oh, you're going into
you
the season.
should be.
Yeah.
Oh,
you should
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
So if we're not, we got real problems.
Well, no,
We
just 6 hours ago, 10 hours ago, we're texting each other, and I'm like, man, Tulane's going to be a game. Like they're giving Kansas State all they want.
Right.
And now after our game, I don't even want to play Tulane.
I don't want to play anybody.
Yeah, I don't want to play.
I want to have a bye week that we can recuperate. I don't know.
Get some of our good coaching.
Yeah, I really
What's
don't
Kevin
know.
Wilson doing? Where's he at?
He's at Tulsa,
Tulsa getting
head
paid.
coach.
He doesn't
by,
need to be
by,
there.
by Arkansas State.
They pay him more than that. So I don't know. I don't want to just completely write the team off. But it's hard after seeing what we saw tonight to not just be exceptionally pessimistic about what our options
Very
are. If we were to go around the room and talk about what we expect our record to be, there's no way we expect that record to be anywhere close to the optimistic takes that we've had. It's going to be hard to, I mean, you're not going to see with what we've seen in 2 games, you're not going to see 8 wins.
No.
You're not going to sniff 8 wins.
You're gonna see 4. You feel like you did
Four
like
more?
4 total.
Other than the fact
Maine-
that some of these
Maine will be
games don't
one.
look real good.
So we just
What's
gotta
the-
get.
South
what's
Carolina?
the other game?
Yeah.
Oh, the
Auburn
one that
doesn't
just
look
smashed
good.
Kentucky
Auburn's
today.
bad. Auburn's bad.
Auburn lost to Cal today.
Okay, but look at South Carolina last week to this week. I mean, obviously teams can improve, so maybe we do improve. I mean, maybe as
We
critical
sure
as
as hell we should.
maybe as critical I've been to coaching, you have to think the coaches have done some calculus on this too, and they're thinking there's no way a 10-2 SEC team doesn't make the playoff. So as we start the season, I can be a little bit more vanilla or more using it as preseason because all that I can either win my conference or I can be 10-2 and I make the playoff.
Yeah.
That's why I'm still picking 12-0.
Well, I think all of
You make a lot of money. You put a bet down to 12. Oh, you go 12-0.
I put them down before the season. I put down the combo Jackson Arnold Heisman plus OU winning the national title. That's a plus $43,000 bet.
I bet.
You should have gave me that $10.
if he put 10 on it, I'm gonna be pretty disappointed. You don't need to make that 10, just one makes that good. Well, I what else do we have to cover or exercise demons or whatever we need to do here?
Well, we anointed a golden foot last week. We had found our guy.
Yeah, it didn't happen tonight, did it?
There was
When we
there
needed
was
it in
basically nothing from tonight.
the clutch moment, he did not come through. It just extremely frustrating on a number of levels there where we are not finding any answers.
How many points did the offense score in the second half tonight?
2.
No, they scored 0.
Oh, the
The
offense.
Zero.
defense scored 2.
Zero.
We have 49
Donut.
yards in the second half. So we went in for halftime adjustment of playing poorly on offense for the first half. And I didn't think it could get any worse than what we played in the first half.
Well, we didn't know that Houston was going to make halftime adjustments
Right, they
too.
didn't
Were they in our
think
locker
about
room?
that.
Were they listening?
How can you
Where was
come
Connor
out
Stallion today?
Yeah.
for the
good
second
point.
half and play that bad?
But their first drive is when they scored the touchdown and missed the going for 2. So it was 14-12 after their first drive in the third quarter. Even if we thought we weren't going to make adjustments, somebody had to be on the sideline. Oh, like we might actually lose this game. We
That's where I get really pessimistic because that's where if you're a team that is actually really good, you've got something you can dig into the bag and pull out and say, all right, we know we can do this well. We know this is something we can accomplish.
But going back, I mean, again to coaching. Right after that drive, they kick the kickoff, and Bauer Sharp calls the fair catch, and our guy in the back runs right into his back. Like, are we trying to fumble the ball? Did nobody talk about pay attention? If your up man calls fair catch,
Yeah.
let him catch the ball.
Right. It's just on a number of levels. What are they talking about? What are they talking about? Are they just yelling at him? Because that's not doing any good. That's not going to do any good. You've got to have some strategy there. You've got to have some things of, that's where you really need to come out of the half and say, all right, well, here's what we need to do to be effective. But it's like they just said, well, we really got to work on some stuff because we got to get better at this facet of the game and this facet of the game. So let's go out and let's do all of these things.
And you have a 20-minute half now.
What do you mean, a 20-minute half?
I mean, like in previous seasons, some halves were only 15 minutes.
What do you mean?
Halftime.
Oh,
I'm saying he has 20 minutes to go in and make adjustments. Like they used to have 15 minutes. And so the coaches
Right.
used to always say,
oh,
you know,
right.
the coaches would meet for the first about 7.5 minutes.
Right.
Then they would talk for about 4 minutes
That
with the
hasn't been a
position
long
groups.
time. I mean, regardless, yeah,
I'm saying you have 5 extra minutes.
right. You got a lot of time to work it through and figure out what you're going to do.
Right.
It can't be a pep rally. It needs to be, here's the strategies we have to employ. Here's the stuff we have to do. We've got to figure out a way to do it. And this is what we're good at. It's pretty clear what we have to do. We got to put points on the board and we got to give our defense some time on the sideline. And we weren't doing either of those things. Very, very frustrating. Anything else? What else do we need to cover that we haven't covered, guys? It's just like it's endless on what we can gripe about, but it was just, oh, let's talk about the fans. The fans leaving.
Before we talk about the fans, I think what it goes back to what we can do is probably what we should have done last year. Why we have anointed Seth Luttrell to be the offensive coordinator without thinking about the long term of where we're going to be and who we have on campus and what we're going to do. To going back to what Lucas said earlier, running power football. Like, did nobody sit down and look at the recruits and think, hey, maybe we should, if we're going to be really good on defense, have this ball control type of offense, run some power football, huddle up a little bit more. We just say, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is our offense. And never comparing to that, is this what our defense is going to be good at?
It's got to be complementary.
Right.
Something we've come back to year after year, season after season, talking about complementary football. And it doesn't seem like there's a strategy there to get that. One of the things that worries me is that we've anointed a guy who is one of the inside crew, rather than think about who is strategically, we're Oklahoma. We can have our pick of the litter.
Pretty much.
Go get the guy. Whoever it is, go get the guy. And is this another Chuck Long situation where we've just appointed a guy who's an insider and everyone likes, not thinking, well, he may not be the answer.
Well, we wanted him based on the people he'd been under and worked around before, because he's worked under
Mike Stoops.
Yeah, I mean, he was under Leach, Leach, Mangino.
Right.
Then he went to, where'd he go, to Arizona
Wilson.
for Mike Stoops? He went to
North Texas.
Did he go back to Texas Tech? Yeah, he went to Texas Tech for a longer time with Leach. I mean, then he ran the offense at North Texas and turned them from a 2-win program to a perennial bowl team. Obviously lower conference, but you still have to make the offenses work with the same type of players you're playing against. So we were talking about when Brent Venables got hired, I said on that pod, I didn't want Jeff Lebby. I said, what's Seth Luttrell doing now?
Right.
And sure enough, he had been fired from North Texas. So I was looking for him 2 years ago. So I was excited when Lebby leaves and Luttrell gets bumped up, because nationwide search wise, I mean, we don't know who's out there.
Well, I mean,
But they do. We're off the hook. We can like Seth Luttrell and think that that's good, but we're not the insiders making the money, making these decisions. I want those guys making a higher level decision. If they land on Seth Luttrell, that's great, but they need to really be thinking about this in terms of who is actually the guy.
Does it look any different though than a Levy offense? Like, does it even look like
it looks worse?
That's true, but just formation wise or limited scheme that we can really truly understand what's going on, it doesn't look any different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't see their touch on it, unless their touch is it's just play.
Right.
Well, it makes you wonder too, if there's not, when Kevin Wilson and Sam Bradford era team adopted the hurry up, it was kind of the new kids on the block. It made a big difference. Is there kind of a turning over where this has been run? People have figured out how to play against it. The clock management, the timing rules have changed. Should you have thought more outside of the proverbial box and said, maybe it's time for offenses to evolve, maybe by devolving into ways that we used to play offense,
Right.
that people aren't as familiar with.
Things that haven't been tried in a long time that might work.
Power eye football.
It very well could be.
Right.
If complementary to a defense like we've got.
Well, basically it's what Michigan did.
Yep.
Yeah.
They
Except we could even be better than that, right? We could be better than that.
They just stuck with what no one else does anymore, and they just ground and pounded you and played field position and had a great defense, and they win a freaking national championship because they're the only ones playing that style
I
anymore
tell you what, this
by
worries me.
digressing,
Right.
by de-evolving.
They tried to go with Rich Rod, who had the
Devolving
up
would be
and
the word.
Yeah,
yeah, the
evolving.
up and coming offense. You know, when Rich
Right.
Rod went from West Virginia to Michigan, and
Right.
it failed miserably. And now they've gone back to a more pro set, you know, run the ball 40 times a game thing, and everybody else is still throwing the ball to the yard and
Yeah.
trying to make hurry up work.
I still think it's an outlier last year, what they did.
No, I
because
agree. I agree.
Going forward,
They cheated.
like today, Michigan's down, 3 scores and there's 8 minutes left, and they're like, hey, we're gonna run up the middle. What are we gonna do on second down? We're gonna run up the middle. Like,
baby.
guys, do you know you're
Yeah.
losing the football?
Well,
game?
and really look at both of those examples. So you've got Michigan just emulating and copying what they did last year that worked in a way that isn't necessarily conducive to winning. And now we have OU's offense emulating successes of the past in a way that won't necessarily work. So what works is what is well suited to what the defense is presenting you, defenses in general and defenses specifically, play by play, and having actually a coherence of what's going to work theoretically. And I don't think we've got that. What we've got is it's as if aliens came down from Venus and they said, well, let's look at some tape and let's see what works. And like, okay, I think we figured this out. And like, it'd be kind of the version of AI today trying to track what happens. And they're really just a copy of a copy imitation. They're not actually knowing this is going to work and here's why it's going to work. We're just going to employ the things that look and feel and kind of smell like something that worked in the past.
but
Is it too? Are we putting too much of the blame on the coaching and the offensive line and the lack of wide receivers? Is this a Jackson Arnold problem?
Could be. Could be.
Could he be one of the 5-star Elite 11 kids that just doesn't cut
Hey,
it?
Spencer Rattler.
Is he a Brock Vanderbilt? Yeah, a Spencer Rattler.
Could be.
The kid that went to USC and went to Boise and couldn't even win
Mordecai.
this backup job. Malachi Nelson.
I mean, it
I mean,
It could be.
today I would
you've
have
got to
taken
think about that.
I would have taken the Arizona version of Jackson Arnold over anything we saw today.
Mm-hmm.
I would have taken Dylan Gabriel today.
Well, yeah, it's easy to say that. I mean, you would have had somebody
Maybe,
that was
but
effective
I,
and could
I,
throw the
I will
ball.
say
Maybe.
again, we said it earlier, but until you kind of go back and watch it, we maybe noticed a few times the receivers open, or maybe he should have gone to a different side or a different play. I still don't think that there's just scheme wise, there's not players that are easily
I
open.
mean, maybe there's 7 more points on the board.
yeah. I mean, so to say one would be
Easy throws, pick routes, double crossers that gets linebackers confused, taking the safeties deep so you hit it underneath route. Everything just is super difficult, and I don't know if it's difficult because of the scheme. I don't know if it's difficult because Arnold can't see it. I don't know if it's difficult because the wide receivers can't get open. And unfortunately, I don't even know if our coaches know what's going on.
right. I mean, so I'd say one would be, I think the timing rules in college football has become more and more like the NFL timing rules and how NFL's played. And you don't see a lot of NFL teams running the same type of offense as college teams run. But they're still creative, they're still dynamic. But maybe there's a little bit of a shift there. But then, so I don't know. So I just finished that point. But to your Jackson Arnold point, Spencer Rattler, I mean, all the good quarterbacks. Is there an issue with the most elite arm talented quarterback, no matter how good a competition he was playing against in high school? Not everybody on that defense he was going against played Division I football. So just because he could throw the ball so hard, he didn't need to read defenses. He knew he could just whip it by the 5'11" linebacker that wasn't going to intercept it. And you come into college and now everybody is better, but you've never had to actually learn how to play football. And so you can't, your athletic ability no longer is
Yeah,
superior.
maybe he
enough.
never read defenses.
And that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
You
I think
never
he
had to
read-
read
he
defense in
ran
high
zone
school.
Read, it didn't gyre.
But
I
I'm
mean,
saying
he
when he
ran
dropped
up
back to
the
pass,
nose.
like Dylan Gabriel, as much criticism as you give him, you knew he was making it done. He was getting it done from an early age by reading defenses and figuring out pre-snap who was open. because he couldn't just rely on he had a cannon for an arm and he could hit the guy.
I mean, it's an open question. I mean, can he read defenses is a really big question at this point. It's obviously a really big question. So one of the things that kind of occurs to me right now, and it's silly that it's just now occurring to me, but when you think back to the Lincoln Riley successes and the great offenses that we had then, and you look at our defense today and where our defense is and how good it is, you have to start thinking, wait a second, we shouldn't be working on things. We shouldn't be just okay. We should be real damn good. We shouldn't be in a position where I mean, vanilla is one thing if you're actually hiding stuff and holding it back. Really crappy is another. And we just appear to be really crappy. Like we don't know what we're doing. Not like we can do it and we're holding back. Like we can't do it. We can't get it done. Maybe that's injuries on offensive line, injuries at receiver, working with younger guys, all of that may be. But it's real hard to believe that at this point here in game 2, that no, we're just not very good on offense, period. So, and we're not going to get good on offense in any way that's going to have us where we want to be in terms of this season.
So now going sort of back to what you wanted to talk about, the fans leaving. Is some of this, though, a situation where
it's a fan's fault? I knew it. I knew he'd blame us.
But you're trying to put a product on this field that fans want to see. And so your schemes, what you're doing, how you're running it, what you're recruiting is the same thing that you have by the guy telling us when to cheer is you're trying to put something this is exciting because it is a 14-12 game and droves of people are walking out of the stadium.
Well, I mean, they paid for the
before
ticket and
before
went
that
there.
they did.
I don't think they care. I think they want to win football games.
But or did they want to be
At the
entertained?
coaching level, maybe administration level, I don't know.
Right.
I don't go to the games to be entertained by some incredible offense. If we won that game 21-7 and the offense just looked serviceable for 2/3 of that game, we're still upset we didn't score more points, but we're not like we are now where it was just a complete disaster. I mean, it was like a dumpster fire out there.
Right. Because but I'm saying you're a fan who you value, you're paying your ticket price because you want to win a national title. But when you're
That's true, I wouldn't have bought the season tickets.
well, you can't choose when you get your tickets because eventually there might be a wait list. But
not at this rate.
Yeah, not at this rate. But if you're somebody who paid $150 a ticket to come to this game and you're doing it because you want to have an enjoyable Saturday, do you want to sit through a 21-6?
So are you saying they're making a mistake by not catering to the fans' desires, or are you saying they are trying to cater to the fans' desires and that's a mistake?
That's what I'm saying. I does it play into the calculus of the administration and the coaching to say what product do we want to put on the field to keep fans engaged and happy?
It should, but not in the way that's so direct. And I think they would deny that anything like that is happening. What I think they're thinking fans want us to win and we're going to put ourselves in the best position to win. Because if they wanted something that was exciting to fans, they would be sacrificing their ability to be ultimately competitive throughout the season to put an exciting product on the field in games 1 and game 2 that would have scored a bunch of points tonight, and yay points, but people would have not realized that, hey, yay points, we did really good, but we're not actually getting better. We're going to only be this good because we're not working on things. I think it's worse than all of that. I think they are not thinking about what it's going to take to be competitive at football. They think this is what's going to be competitive at football. It's not exciting. Kind of a criticism we've had at basketball. It's like, we want you to win, but if you win, it's okay if you're boring. And like Sampson's teams were a big criticism here, but you damn sure better win if you're boring. If you're exciting, that's great. I don't want to be exciting and not win. So I like Billy Tubbs was a combination of both. His basketball was winning and it was exciting. I want exciting football that wins. I expect them to be working towards winning. I don't think they're working towards winning though at this point. And they're damn sure not working towards exciting.
I think it's because you could tell just how out of sync it is, right? If you just if you had successful run plays but you didn't convert a 3rd and 3, but you took some time off the clock and you moved it 40 yards and then you punted and you're letting your defense do its thing.
Yeah.
People can get behind that. But I think when you can tell it's just discombobulated and it's just not working, it's
I mean, Iowa filled up every game at their home stadium last
What do
year.
you have to
Have you
do
been
in
to
Iowa?
Iowa?
There's
Have you
nothing
been to
going on
Iowa?
in
We
Iowa?
got nothing going on here either, I promise.
It's better
I had to
than
fly to
Iowa.
New York to go to Pearl Jam shows because they're not here.
Well, can we all go? I mean, for God's sake. Well, so I'm of two minds as far as the fans leaving. It's easy for me to look around and say, with criticism, what are you doing? Your team is in a dogfight. You should stick around for this. I mean, it was on that level, it's pathetic. It's like you're taking a lot for granted. You're walking out on your team. You got people walking out. I mean, they were early in the third
Halftime,
quarter,
saw people
halftime
leave.
walking out. It's like now
perfect weather too.
It's
perfect weather.
14 to 6,
Perfect weather.
and there was a group of 8 people in front of me
You will
that
not
just
get-
left.
you'll be lucky in the next
Why
two
even go to
seasons
the
to get a game this good in terms of
Yeah.
weather. I know it's a little late. It's not that late. Come on, let's be honest. So it's easy to criticize from all that, and especially you're walking out on our team. On the other mind, the other side of that coin, one is it's their money. They can do what the hell they want. And if they want to walk out, that's a protest vote. They're saying like this is not good enough. And honestly, the fan that's attracted to this game is probably not the guy who's going to be in the fans in game against Alabama. They're not going to pay it for that ticket. That's more surprising to see somebody walk out in that game because you expected a tight game and this is a big time ticket. This is a lot of people who were handed tickets by a season ticket holder who didn't want to be there. And so you look around, you see a lot of kids, you see a lot of people that you will not see at other games. I go to every game, and I know the composition changes when we go from these type of games to the games where we actually are in doubt about winning and they're going to be competitive. So I understand you got to get the kids home. You didn't sign up for this. And by the same token, there could be some fans that are real diehard fans, and they say, I didn't sign up for this either. This is Houston. I got other things to do with my life. We joke about longing for that we have something else to do with our lives and that we stick around with this damn thing.
Yeah, sports
And
is
it gets
ruined my
tough.
life.
Sports is rough, man. So I don't know. I can't really criticize them too much for the fact that they're not paid anything. They paid to get there. And it's a sunk cost. Every extra minute they waste in that stadium watching this team not perform well is something they could be doing something else with their life. So in some respects, I say, walk out. Go find something better to do until that team can put something together that's worth sticking around for. Then you can be criticized for walking out because that's what you really are paying to see. You're not paying to see them barely win against Houston. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of criticism for them at the end of the day. What do you guys think? Any different?
We've talked about it over the years. People, it's 35 to nothing at halftime. They leave, used to be you leave, go to O'Connell's, have a couple drinks, come back.
Not going to O'Connor's.
That would appease people to, well, I came to drink beer and have fun or whatever. So they leave at halftime, go get some more drinks, come back, sit through the third quarter and then leave and then blow out. But now you can't leave in the stadium. So how many of those people just want to get drunk?
Right. Well, not just
There's
want to
gonna
get
be-
drunk.
There's gonna be some of those guys.
Don't be so dismissive. I mean, it's not just want to get drunk, but I mean, it's
So
I guess one thing to think about is the fact that when they've made it very exclusive, and they've made it very expensive. That's the evolution of everything. And to be honest, they've made it expensive or it's become expensive, and yet it's not something that's really high quality as far as the fan experience. The fan experience is crap. The stadium is a joke. The concession's a joke. My seat broke tonight. A chairback seat, it broke tonight. Finally broke. And not overweight. Now I hear what you're saying.
it was the arm.
It was the arm of the chair. I was sitting on it. No, they haven't made it nice enough, and yet they've made it real expensive. Well, if you're going to make it real expensive, who's going to come? People that can pay that amount of money. People that can pay that amount of money have a high cost of their time, and they got better things that they can do with their life. If you want to fill the stands with people that are going to come, you got to either make it a great experience and really reward them by everything super comfortable, or you're going to get the club crowd who doesn't mind not being out there and watching it. They're going to be back in the room drinking a beer or having a cocktail watching it on TV when it's going on live right outside that window, and they're not going to have the same experience. So you kind of you make the bed you lie.
But-
You
but I
lie
think
you
Lucas-
lie in the bed you made. That's
But I think Lucas might, you know, indirectly is probably right as well
I
about
don't think
getting
he's wrong.
getting drunk is the sense of you go down to get a concession, no matter what you want, water, popcorn. The line is 350 people long.
And they're running out of everything.
They're running out. They were running out of popcorn before kickoff
Before
even happened.
kickoff, they ran out
Before
of popcorn.
kickoff happened, they
Girl
ran
next
out
to me
of
complained.
popcorn.
She went down for halftime and said Pizza Hut's out of pizza.
Right.
How does that happen?
How does that happen? But you say like, well, beer is this expensive. This is, and you're sitting in the stands and you're thinking, well, I've already invested X number of dollars getting into the stadium, and I'm watching a crappy product on the field. I'm not gonna waste another amount of dollars on beer when I can just leave and go back to my
Go
tailgate,
watch it in the bar.
go watch in the bar, and I can drink my cheap beer that I bought there,
Or better beer
better beer,
in a better
cheaper
environment.
and better.
Yeah, and watch other games that are interesting.
Yeah,
Including
said
this
here.
one.
So maybe that is a defense of it. That the concessions, the west side upper deck, before halftime, about 5 minutes before halftime, went out there. There was 3 or 4 lines that were 400 people deep, waiting to go, and they're moving at literally probably one customer every 10 minutes to
That's
get the.
glacial.
I mean, it
glacial
was
speed.
so
Who
slow.
cares about those people in the Upper West?
Right, but when we went,
Nobody apparently.
when I won it, it was kind of, it's so funny. I mean, there's 2 funny things. One is it's on the board menu items, it says nachos with cheese. I don't know if there is such thing as nachos without cheese.
I don't
Those are
think there
just chips. And then it also had this concession stand is staffed by an all caps awesome crew, which I don't know if they know what awesome means. Because I go up there and I say before the game, I want a popcorn, and she's like, we're out of popcorn. I'm like, well, I do think you have about 4 bags over on that side. Like, and she, oh yeah, I guess we have a couple left, but you're running out before. I don't know what you're doing.
It's everything. I go to use the restroom, and I'm waiting in this line of guys. They're waiting to get in the restroom, and to avoid a fight that I know would happen, I wait in that line just so when I finally can get in the door, I can dart to the middle,
Right.
because I know those urinals are all going to be open. And my criticism isn't the dumb fans who don't know all those are open. It's the poor design in the entire place that they won't correct to show people, hey, you could be back in the stands rooting for the team, not standing in this line if you just were aware of the fact that there's actually there's unused things waiting to be used that you want to use right now and get the hell out of here. Nobody's going into the restroom to be in the restroom. They want to get out. It just, all of it
It's
is
not Penn
just
State.
so, yeah, exactly.
The only
It's just so frustrating.
the only thing that is better this year on the west side upper deck is they used to have, the lemon chills and the other carts that were
That were just
out.
occupying
They
space.
were just occupying space, and so you were trying to, everybody had single file, and that was all you could get through. You could at least spread out a little more, but when you have the line of people waiting to order that is wrapping like a snake into a circle, it makes no sense.
None of it makes sense, and it goes back to like they can't be surprised when they have low demand, when they have low attendance, when people walk out in perfect weather, when the product on the field is that bad and the experience is that difficult.
So talking about experience, and I'm not on the pod a lot, so we had a lot to talk about, but in the student section, back in the day, the seats were let's say in every other section, the seats went 1 to 28.
Right,
The student section used to go 1 to like 33.
right.
So they knew the students didn't sit down, so the seats were closer together so they could sell more student tickets. When they have reshifted the student section, did they go renumber those seats?
I don't think
or
they
no?
did.
They
So
did.
you talk about the fan experience. There's people sitting on the other side, on the east side of the stadium,
Really cramped.
really crammed in there.
And those are,
Sitting on the stairs too.
well, I mean,
Right.
yeah, to get off on that, because
Well, I'm saying people leaving,
Right,
you're
right, right.
already cramped
no,
in
not
there.
just that, there's students that had to come early and camp out for those seats and sit in the sun. Even if it's a perfect day like today, it's still hot
Right.
sitting in that sun. And it again, it's a bad experience. And so I don't really begrudge people too much for walking out. I do look up, and this is another factor of when you've created a situation that caters to a group of people that want it a certain way, You can't be surprised by what is the result. If you look up at that upper east deck where those people can go back below and get into that big club area, that big, it's not a real exclusive club, but it's a club lounge area where they can be.
First bank.
It's like all vacant. There's nobody in those seats up there. And the reason nobody's in those seats is because they can be down below and they're watching the game on the TV and they're sitting at a table. They're not rooting for the team and they're not making any noise. So you have an 85,000 seat stadium that's not that loud at a time when, unfortunately, we needed it to be loud tonight, but it's not going to be loud because they're inside a room watching the game rather than out in the crowd. Well, you've created this situation where you've got this. So what do you expect?
But going back,
Can you be surprised?
Can you be surprised? Can you be surprised when you have the speaker system turned up as loud as it can go? You have them yelling at you every 5 seconds. You're supposed to say, oh, and these people are going to say you, get on board. Like, maybe it's a bad experience because people just don't want to sit there and be yelled at.
I don't want to get yelled at
during the timeout.
I equated it to one of those 90s, an episode in the 1990s of the TV show Scared Straight. It was like I'd gone to prison and they're yelling at me. It's like, what am I doing wrong? I don't know. Why is this man mad at me? I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but it's awful. And he's yelling at me at every time out. It's grating. And then it doesn't flow well. They're trying to squeeze too much in. It's funny. It's like a microcosm or just another analogy to how bad the team looks in terms of not being prepared for the season. Nothing in the game day experience is there. Nothing in the game day experience is SEC ready, if you will. And
we still do it.
Huh?
We still do it. And we always will.
And we always will.
Yep.
And we do.
But there's not that many diehards.
And they don't deserve, and they're going to lose more and more of them. Is what's difficult. There's a lot of alternatives.
I suggest everybody should just put some little Debbies in their pocket when they go to leave.
Right.
When they leave the house, just put some little Debbies in your pocket.
Right.
Go into the game and just snack on that because you can't get possession.
It'd be a great snack to have. I mean, you could have. I mean, now we're getting into the season of the pumpkin spice stuff.
Yep.
You're gonna have Christmas trees soon.
I don't say that. Don't say those words yet.
Oh, sorry. You're gonna have. I mean, you could always, an oatmeal cream pie.
That'll
I mean,
fit right in your pocket.
I tell you
It'll be
a
warm
trick.
by the time you're ready to eat it.
So people would say, well, if it gets in my pocket, it'll get all warm and it'll get all mushed together. That's a feature, not a bug, baby.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. You just open that up and pour it into your mouth. It's so good. And you'll forget about the fact that this team can't score on offense to save their life.
Yep.
You'll just have, and you don't have to cheer because you got all that in
So
your
you're
mouth.
eating your feelings.
You're
and
eating
breaking your chair.
Yes, right. Okay. It may be 60-40 on this chair problem, but it's still honestly it's a problem in the stadium.
The game day experience is a huge problem.
You drove down from Kansas.
Drove down from Kansas to
Yep.
experience this, and it's funny
Almost from Missouri.
because I was telling the one child who came with me as we were talking about it. He was, asking about, was it always like this? And I'm like, well, I remember it being better, but some of that could just be I sat through a really crappy 90s where a family would not leave even when it was extremely cold. And you used to go to the bathroom to warm up when they had the heater there.
Literally true.
You would go there to like feel your fingers, but you went there and then when we were good, it was like, well, it's worth it to pay that price. But now I don't know if it is worth it to pay that price.
There's two factors there. One is that you and I, and we have all changed as we've gotten older. We've elevated our wealth from where we were as kids, just because that's the natural economics of it for a lot of people. And the other is the fact that you were a kid then and you're nostalgic for it and all that. But truly, the world is better with a lot of better alternatives, and they have not kept up with those alternatives. So we joke about Iowa and there's nothing else to do in Nebraska, but it's really true. And there's a reason that in places like LA, they struggle to get people into the Coliseum to watch USC. Why? LA is a pretty fabulous place with a lot of great things to do.
They have beaches.
A lot of alternatives. I've heard they've had beaches. So as you get alternatives of things to do, you've got to keep up with the Joneses, or you're going to get in a situation where you're going to look up and there won't be fans in the stands, or the fans that you've got, you're not going to want them to be there. So
I mean, the last
that's a
several
problem.
years of being able to park here and then walk to the stadium, just it has made it so much easier because when you're coming from out of town and you have to find parking somewhere here, you're either dishing out 40 bucks to park and hoping that you're not going to get blocked in
Or
by some
dinged.
idiots or dinged, or you're trying to park for free or for $10 and it's really freaking far away and it's a long walk. But yeah, the whole experience, honestly, from
I have a lot of friends who
from
don't come
getting here
anymore
for traffic,
for that reason.
parking, the limited gates to get in, and then the in-game experience.
Well,
It is an exhausting day.
look at it.
And if I didn't love this team like I do, there's no way I would do this. So like,
And you're special. You're
casual
different than us. You're
fan-
not exactly
the casual fan,
fan.
I don't know how many keep coming back, to be honest with you.
Fewer and
I-
fewer. That's why it's a struggle to get to we have a sellout. And it's going to continue to be that way. You look at what they're trying to do with the basketball and trying to move it closer to the city so that on the north side of Norman, so that it's closer for Oklahoma City and closer for Edmond. Well, whether or not we're not going to debate that tonight, but you're damn sure not moving the football field any closer. And you're not moving it significantly closer. So it's always going to be this struggle. You've got to figure out a way to make it better. And it's one thing to say we can have a really winning product. And yeah, I guarantee you, if we were to have a national championship contending team and we win a championship, you're going to see a bump in all of that. But it's going to be short-lived. Unless you can continue that forever, you're going to see a fall off. And I think we're already seeing the fall off. And after nights like tonight, I mean, we looked at thinking going into the season that we're going to try to, or at least some of us are going to try to go to every game, including the away games. In my head, I'm already writing off any trips to away games. And they're going to have to prove in the next couple of weeks that it's worth my time, or I'm going to sell my Auburn tickets and I'm going to cancel that hotel reservation and save my weekend and pretend I'm a real human being that has alternatives in the fall, because I'm not taking up 3 full days to go watch a team that is not competitive.
Yeah, I mean, if you go no further than what Jay mentioned, the gate experience and getting into that gate and the lines they have. It's not like you woke up this morning and said, how many people do you think we're gonna have? Like 20 people come? And somebody's like, no, we're gonna have 80,000. Like, oh, well, I guess we need to put another couple. What do you think? That's 4 more gates? Like that you can't figure that out beforehand to get people in. And I had plenty of stuff in my pockets that don't feel like a wall, and he's patting me down. He doesn't stop me. He's just like, oh yeah, you're good. Go in. Like, why did we waste that time?
The oatmeal cream pies are fine.
Right. And I mean, I could have probably walked in with anything I wanted to tonight. But my point is, maybe it is you go in there, you went through this whole hassle, this stressful day of parking, getting, if you're bringing your kids, you bought, you've dropped $100 in concessions, you're sitting there in the third quarter and you're just thinking, okay, I'm done. Like, I want to go home and just go to sleep. I don't care to be here anymore.
Well, that is what the team seemed like to me tonight. They don't want to be there anymore. I know they don't. They're going to deny that and say they don't feel that way. We're going to have to see. We're going to have a midweek pod. We're going to hash this out, talking about what's coming up with Tulane and where we are. It's going to be a very come to Jesus or whoever it needs to be moment to see, well, where are we as a team and where do we go forward? We'll cover all of that on the midweek pod. Anything else?
There's
for
an
the good of
easy
the
solve
cause?
for our problems,
There is?
and it happens on the midweek pod.
What's that?
You guys all pick Tulane.
We're not talking about locks of the week until the midweek.
You picked Tulane, and our OU's fortunes have changed.
This could be. We might have a unanimous Tulane pick, to tell you the truth. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to be there. Thanks to Little Debbie, great sponsor. Really appreciate that. Thanks to Tobacco Exchange. Anything else before we sign off? All right. Well, thanks, guys. And Boomer.
Sooner.